Are you playing hide and seek with yourself? So you have three layers of yourself. You have the raw layer, the social layer. So looking at those to remove the mask is not the easiest. It is much easier to waste my life away. It sounds pointless to me. What am I supposed to do? Just focus on work to accumulate money. Life is extremely challenging, and the way that we've been brought up is where we have to wear masks. We have to wear masks for the people that we're closest to, the coworkers, the family, the in-laws, the children, the wives, the husbands, everything. So these masks that we have to wear are defined by the rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement are how we need to interact with each individual person at a given time. And what ends up happening is we have to react and act in a certain way depending on the person standing in front of us. And so there are so many different identities that we have to wear, and it hides us from ourselves. Are you playing hide and seek with yourself, trying to figure out who you are and what you're doing here and what your purpose is? My name is Johnathon Kiebler, and I've been on this journey for 11 years, and I've been helping other people remove those masks, deconstruct the social conditioning that we've gone through. And I want to bring those challenges and those successes to you so that you can find out who you really are, the raw, authentic you, the genuine self, beneath all of the masks that you were forced to wear through the society that we've been brought into. So before we get started on who you are, let's describe what this raw layer is. So you have three layers of yourself. You have the raw layer, the social layer, and the private layer. The raw layer is who you are when you were born, who you are before all of the voices, all the verbal cues that you received, all the reinforcement, and all of the consequences that you received from being yourself. After you receive those, then you are forced into the social layer. The social layer is how you show up in everyday society, at school, at home, not at home, at school, in public, at work, with engaging with other people in public settings. And then the private layer is your closest friends and family. These are the people that get a version of you that is filtered, not raw, not your authentic, genuine self, but the filtered version that you don't let everybody see. And the reason why it's filtered is because we have lost the ability to be ourselves, to be expressive, imaginative, creative, authentic, genuine, and loving. And that's because the inherited systems that have forced us into these different compartments. I'm not missed by how this might sound, but let's look at when you go to the library. We're told that we have to be quiet at the library so people can study out of respect. And that's one setting. And then at work, we have to be very professional. We have to speak clearly, articulate. We have to behave a certain way. But when we're out with our friends, then we let loose, right? We're loose with our words. We're a little bit more genuine, expressive in the way that we feel that feels natural. And so these two very different settings coerce us into behaving differently. And this is a hard concept to grasp. But think of the social layers as a situational or circumstantial setting. And then within each one of those social layers, we have different people that we engage with. And those different people that we engage with are the rules of engagement. And this is where the masks really come on, because each social layer has all of these different rules of engagement depending on the person. So you have 3 social layers and then maybe 15 different relationship types. And each one, we're trying to figure out which one we need to show up to, who we need to be, what we need to be at that time. And so these create separate identities. And then these identities are the masks that we put on. The masks, we just walk around trying to figure out which mask to put on. And what happens is over time, this happens for me, what happens is over time, I lose a sense of who I really am. And then when who I really am starts to get buried beneath all of these masks. And I start to lose touch with myself. And this is the relationship that I have with myself. The relationship that you have with you is so convoluted and buried beneath all of these masks that it might be challenging for you to even know who you are. And I understand that. I get with that. I have been in the same position. And sometimes still today, I forget who I am. Not at this specific moment, but there are times where I've been going with the ebb and flow for life and like trying to be cordial with people instead of a place of neutrality. I'm trying to meet them where they're at, that I forget that I am a person that needs to be authentic. On the flip side, when you start to deconstruct these masks, decondition the past, when you start to remove them piece by piece, one by one, then you start to understand or understand who you are again. You start to remember the beauty in your soul, and you show up and interact with people in a little bit more authentic, raw way. But there comes a point where we reach a boundary line, the boundary line with ourselves, where one, we're not willing to cross the boundary because of the fear of what might be on the other side or the uncertainty. And also the boundary line is also defined by not knowing our limitless self, not knowing our capabilities. And this is something that I had to deal with recently, was like when I reach that boundary line, like I don't know what I'm capable of. I don't know how limitless I am. I don't know what my limitations are because I'm discovering new parts about myself. It's like exploration. It's like when Christopher Columbus came over to the West, like he didn't know what he was going to find. He had to discover. And then still, when we were colonizing the United States from the 13 colonies, and when we started moving more west with the California gold rush, people were all migrating over to California. There were no roads. You had to traverse mountains and dangerous natural life, and then also the American Indians who were here. So these are like, if we paint that picture as far as like self-discovery, there's a lot of things that we don't know. There's a lot of situations that we're going to run into, and we don't know how we're going to handle those situations, those challenges, and even successes. Like, I don't know how I'm going to handle success. Whatever the definition of success I have of myself, or the ideas, you might have a different idea. That's why I'm not defining success, because everybody's definition of success is different. But what we've inherited is success is money, wealth, accumulation. But in my book, success is the relationships, the beautiful relationships that I have with people and with myself. And that's why I've tried so hard to navigate these mountains and rivers across the West. Like, I'm just rolling with life, and the more challenges that I have and the more roadblocks and the more boundary lines I push, the more I get to discover. Because self-discovery is not something that you do instantly. It's something that I do every single day, and every day I learn more. And there are many times where I stop doing self-discovery, and I go back into autopilot mode, or revert back to my own old patterns, the mask that I wear. I start hiding behind those because self-discovery is uncomfortable, because there's a lot of fear, insecurities, and egos, and past traumas that I've dealt with, and I'm sure that you have dealt with similar things, similar insecurities and troubles as well. So looking at those to remove the mask is not the easiest task in this world. It is much easier to waste my life away on social media, or watching TV, or drinking. Like, it is so much easier to do that. But what is the benefit of those things? Like, am I living on autopilot just to be distracted, just for no purpose, aimlessly wandering? And I choose to believe that I have a purpose here. And in order for me to bring that purpose to the people, I have to make sure that I'm not wearing masks for those people, because they need the raw, authentic self. in order to do it. They don't need the social layer. They definitely don't need the private layer where I'm filtering myself. They need the raw Johnathon Kiebler, the person who is not afraid to say what he thinks and does what he believes is right all the time. Not all the time, but come on. But that's the person that the world needs, if they need it, right? And if I'm not doing that, then I'm literally just falling into one of these social layers or these rules of engagement and hiding behind the mask just to get on by through life. That just sounds like not appealing. It sounds pointless to me. What am I supposed to do? Just focus on work to accumulate money and then come home and get distracted the whole time? What is the point of that? This is the things that we find out when we're deconditioning the past is we're literally tearing down the old structures, the old frameworks that we see, that we've been taught, that were inherited to us. And then the operating baseline that was chosen for us are the rules of engagement that we have to engage in depending on the relationship. So we need to replace that framework, and we also need to replace that operating baseline with what we choose, with the chosen one. Declare who we want to be. Declare the future. Declare it. And then move into a phase of evolution. And this phase of evolution is not 2 weeks, a month. Like, this is a lifelong evolution, a lifelong evolutionary journey that we go on as a result of the lifelong conditioning that we've inherited and the trauma that we've experienced from the fear of society, the algorithms, the media, the school system, being ripped away from our family. That these are all things that we go through in society that have put us into these disassociative personalities where we have to show up differently depending on where we're at, depending on who we talk to. And it is overwhelming. It is stressful. It almost causes emotional collapse, calamity. And so we want to escape that. And the easiest escape after this bombardment, this emotional elicitation, is to distract ourselves. And I don't want to distract myself. I want my mind in my body where I can have awareness and live in the moment in almost a meditative state. But I didn't always want to do that, because every time I was, like, there were things about myself that I didn't like. There were things that I was taught as a kid, like, you are a sinner. Like, I don't believe that. I believe that that was forced on me. And so when I start to look at those things and those inherent fears that were instilled in me at birth because of the conditioning, like, those are things that I didn't want to look at. And so I wanted to stay distracted in whatever means possible. So when we finally bring our mind back into the body, there's so much emotional stagnation and corruption and corrosion that we face. So we want to go back out and escape. So this is a life process. And I do have the DDE Sober and Rebuild, the Decondition, Declare, Evolve, coming in the works, and it should be released soon. But I just wanted to share this tidbit with you because, like, don't be afraid to look inward, because the fears that we have were not our choice. They were imprinted on us from a very young age. So you don't have to live that way. And if you are on a journey to, like, discovering yourself and weeding out through all of that, then awesome. I love that. If you're not and you're interested, then subscribe and join me on this journey, because I'm going to share my experience with this. And then also I'm going to start bringing some practices to you that you can do to remove these masks and deal with the insecurities and the fear that you might have, because I still have those today. And I do a lot of work around myself and around the people around me. But the goal is to have a new relationship with myself every single day. Not one that I want to run from, but one that I want to gravitate towards. a relationship with the raw, authentic, genuine self that has a soul, inherent desire to help. That's who I want. That's the relationship I want with myself, because I've met that person inside of me, beneath the ego, beneath the mask. But it was a journey. It was grueling. It was a trudging road to get there. But without knowing all of that suffering that I had to do, how could I possibly relate and connect with people? How can I possibly help another human being who I don't understand what they're going through? So I want to help you. So hit the subscribe button. When we get to 500 subscribers, I'm going to be bringing a lot of other stuff. But remember, the goal of this channel is to experience life in a whole new way by bringing our mind back into our body and deconditioning the inherited framework and the baseline that we were. So let's get on this journey. I love y'all. Peace, and I'll see you soon.